Welcome to MOTS, where we'll be applying the Manzer or mostly Thurlow scale of quantitative analysis of pop culture narrative to a binary system.
Or MOTS.
This podcast contains spoilers, mature content, and language. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome back to another Lost Signals podcast. We're here today talking about the newest entry in the Star Wars canon called The Last Jedi, and we're going to talk about why it's called that and several other things throughout this podcast. As you can tell by Chris's eye rolling.
Well, no, we'll get there.
Over there. We're going to have an interesting conversation, I think. So, I am Steve Ramosi, and I'm joined here by Rich Perry and Christopher Morgan.
Good evening.
And I don't think we went over this, but I don't think we're going to have a funny log line for this movie. I think we're just going to get right into it, unless somebody's got something right off the dome.
Go on.
Nope. We're just going to go. All right.
Probably going to come up with something at the end of the...
if you have something at the end, just let us know that.
Oh, wait. I was going to say intergalactic Bronco chase in space. Bronco chase in space?
Yeah, the intergalactic white Bronco chase. All right.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to start off with interbody conclusion. This is picks up right kind of where the last movie left off, where The Force Awakens left off, and actually you're pretty dead on there. This entire movie is kind of running away from the
First Order.
I hate that it's not called the Empire anymore. I just want to call it the Empire, but from the First Order. And the rebel scum are kind of trying to escape with their lives, basically, at this point. They are kind of thrown to the wind. Rey is trying to get Luke to come and join them. Finn was in a coma last we saw him. He wakes up early in the movie. And Poe... our new main heroes, and Poe is a pilot again. He's just doing his job as a pilot for the rebellion. Sorry, were you going to say something?
I was going to say, as quickly as this movie takes place after The Force Awakens, it's less a coma and more like a 2-day nap.
Yeah, he was very tired. We're introduced to some new characters who we're going to talk about later in probably supporting. So it's very strange now that I think about it. I actually hadn't thought about it until I started answering this question. The plot, there is a plot. There is you get into it.
Very well put.
It happens, and then there's a conclusion to it. But all of the plot kind of focuses on them trying to get away, and a large portion of the movie is about A, the space chase that's happening, and B, trying to get somebody that can help them get away. And that's kind of it. Luke,
The Last Jedi.
Luke is reintroduced into the plot. Carrie Fisher has her, big final movie, which I think I really love her part in this. I don't know about you guys.
I agree. I agree.
And they eventually get away and set a new spark for a new rebellion. I think a lot of the interesting stuff is going to come up in themes.
Yeah.
Which is going to be you, Rich. But as far as the interbody conclusion goes, that's kind of it. It's not a super... there aren't too many twists and turns. It's all just trying to flee. And for a running away movie, as I suppose I'll call this from now on, I really enjoyed this movie. I like the intro, getting back into all the characters and our reintroduction to them. I like what they do with the characters throughout the middle, although I'm hinging between a 2 and a 3 on this question because the middle is all the continuance of like the running away. And the standoff at the end, I think, is really interesting and cool. So, I guess I'll leave it at that and see what you guys want to say about intro, body, conclusion.
I am floating around a 2. Like, the middle, while necessary, just... I don't know, I think because there was, like... I didn't feel that there was enough payoff for the things that happened in the middle.
Okay.
So, in the conclusion, to really get me to give that a 1. I mean, it was serviceable, but I liked the intro. The intro and the conclusion stick with me more after watching this. What about you, Chris?
I really liked all the stuff with Rey and Luke. The one thing Beth and I did notice was that Luke was telling Rey about the balance. You got to balance the Force. The Force isn't there. Nobody owns the Force, you know. And then she's like, well, there's there's the dark side of the Force in part of this cave. And then he's just like, you know, well, you have to reject the dark. I'm like, well, if you're finding balance, don't you have to kind of accept the light and the dark? But other than that, I like that. I thought Kylo Ren was great. I really liked the standoff with Snoke. And I thought it was really cool, when Snoke had, Rey / Luke's lightsaber, and you know, they're setting it up where Snoke wants Kylo Ren to kill Rey. And then he with his hand moves the lightsaber and then turns it on and it goes right through him, which is awesome. And they try that trick later on when Rey and Kylo are fighting all the guards. And I always thought it was really cool. Why didn't they ever do that? Use it like a stiletto. And they did. And I thought that was really sharp. I thought Carrie Fisher's Leia was awesome. I think, I enjoy Finn and Rose really a lot. And the problem I had with the movie was everything else. Well, I mean, first of all, let's get to the space chase. I mean, it was kind of like, first of all, it was ridiculous. We're having a it's just like our Star Destroyer is so slow and they're faster ships at sublight. So we can just, through attrition, I'm like, and your slower escort vessels can't, you know, come on.
I just assumed that when he's just like, hey, they're right outside of the range where our blasters are going to do damage, they were just going to send all their fighters out to start picking off the ship.
Yeah, I mean, like, come on. There's like 100 different ways they could do this.
But the fighters can't break that shield,
it was fucking ridiculous. Yeah, really? But, oh, come on. It was like fucking ridiculous. Like, it was a slow chase in space.
Because like, they put all of their shields to the back of the ship. Like, the fighters just could have started pegging the front. I think they would have did something.
Well, all right. See, there is an episode of the new Battlestar Galactica called 33, and the Cylons show up every 33 minutes and keep the colonial fleet on the run. So, like, I know they probably, I don't know if they drew inspiration from that or not, and I like the fact that there was a limitation on fuel, but I mean, if they were jumping to light speed, all right, take that 33 because it was a great episode and use that where like they're jumping, they're running out of fuel, and they're trying to buy time for Finn and Rose, and they'd sent them on this mission early in the fight because Finn's like gonna go out and find Rey, and he's like, they're at light speed, he's gonna take an escape pod. Escape pods have thrusters. I mean, what are you gonna do? Like, you know, by the time you get to you're gonna die of starvation, you know, in the escape pods. So that didn't make any sense. Poe is kind of like, Beth and I were calling him the Karen of this movie because he basically got everybody else killed.
Well, it's like that.
And the other thing that was annoying me was all the cutesy little characters. Like, enough with the CGI stuff, and especially when Rey cut the rock in half and it fell down and destroyed one of the caretaker's wheelbarrows. We're like, are you kidding me? And like, Benicio del Toro, his character was interesting. I loved when he's just like, you know, they go to this casino and there's like arms dealers. Like, and, you know, Rose is saying these are the worst people in the world. They enslave kids and abuse animals for their horse racing, but they make their own money on selling weapons, and they're escaping at one point. And Benicio del Toro says, oh, look, you know, he shows all the Imperial weapons, you know, from the past and even to the New Order. He's like, hey, you know, they sell from this. And then he puts up an X-Wing and he's like, you know, basically these guys are supplying both sides. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Yeah. But they wasted their time on other tedious bullshit.
So what was the line that he said?
There's a lot of cutesy shit in this.
It was nauseating. And like the last act was the better of the acts because I loved what Luke did. I kind of figured he had projected himself because they had already established that with Kylo.
Plus the fact that he looked like he did when.
Yeah. Beth's like, what did he do? Like before he showed up, get a haircut and get dye job?
It's like I just assumed he was like in the like caretakers like bringing him more hair dye. It's like I gotta look great. I haven't seen my sister in so long.
But it's kind of like they would mix and match throwing an Empire and Return of the Jedi, because when the Millennium Falcon went through the crust of the planet, I'm like, oh my God, this is Return of the Jedi all over again. And all the cutesy stuff. It's just like, they had a lot of great, my whole point is, I'm not hating on the movie. If we had done this like right after I'd gotten the movie, I would have gone on a rant. As I said, I brought over, it's like around Christmas, so it's snowing. It snowed here today in New Jersey, and I brought over Irish coffees, and I told him I was angry after this movie was over. So I was in the kitchen, decided I'm going to make homemade whipped cream. So I'm in there. But the thing is, what was driving me nuts about the movie is there are parts that would be so good, and then it would get so stupid so quickly. Like through the entire movie, I was like getting angry because Beth and I talk about the Orville tone shifts between comedy and drama really well, better than it really should, given, it does it so well.
Better than you expect.
Better than you expect.
Except for the first episode.
Anyway. And then but then you get into the Last Jedi, and the tonal shifts were fucking ridiculous. I mean, it was just like
Kinda gives you
whiplash.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to say, I was teetering on between a 1 and a 2, and then we got the tag with the stupid kids, and it was just ridiculous. And I'm giving it a 1.
Really? Oh.
Yeah. Right. I really,
I'm gonna give it a 2.
If you break this up into 3 parts, you bring it up the Fleet story, the Kylo, Rey and Luke story, and the Finn and Rose thing.
Yeah.
I liked their stuff, but I hated everything that went along. I loved Finn, Rose, and Benicio del Toro's character, and I thought the casino, basically the Monte Carlo with the arms dealers was interesting, but they did bollocks with it. So, I mean, if you're gonna say there's 3 disparate elements in it that eventually meet at the end, only like one of them worked for me in all total. The Fleet stuff I thought was ridiculous. Especially we were talking about Laura Dern's character. She was going to pilot the big command ship of the rebels.
Yeah, that was a waste of
So everybody gets away. So like she waits until so I figured, she's going to turn the ship around and ram the big Star Destroyer. No, she sits there, waits for half the escaping ships to get destroyed before she turns the ship around. And light speeds into this huge Star Destroyer, which was amazing scene, but that should have been the first thing she did.
Yeah.
It's the movie was just off paced. It was just
the good guys never think about that stuff until it's too late.
It was tonally all over the place. It really was a very frustrating movie for me to watch, and I'm not hating on it, but empirically,
it's okay.
No. I mean, no, I could hate on it, but I took it out on the whipped cream before I got here. But yeah, I just, in all honesty, I have to give it a 1.
Right, so 1.
Yeah, 2.
For Chris, 2 for Rich. I'm gonna give it a 2 as well. I thought that they did a pretty good job. Like I said, I was wavering between a 3 and a 2. You guys are probably right though. Although I do have very interesting things to say about the next topic, which Rich, you're gonna start us off on with themes.
So, I actually got a couple themes that I think were big in this. Actually, 3, and then 1, like not really a joke, but just something that kind of weighed on my mind throughout the film. Mm-hmm. First one is killing the past. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of characters trying to not just move past their failures or like things tying them to what had happened before, but just to outright destroy them. Like you have Kylo Ren killing Snoke, taking over the last order, or the First Order. Sorry, the First Order, and like trying to remake it in his own image, and failing completely. But you have like Luke trying to destroy the Jedi, and they're
not even destroy, just let them die.
Yeah, let them die. Let them die out because of their hubris.
And that was amazing. That was so self-aware, because that's the one thing we always said about the prequels is, the Phantom Menace was the Jedi. They fucked everything up.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that he even said that, like, the Jedi at their height let
Darth Sidious.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's so self-aware and so great. And this is why I'm angry at the film, because there's such great things like that. I'm sorry, Rich.
I have a
need
lot
catch
to
up.
say about that. Anyway, go on, Rich.
It's like that. Then you also have the whole duality as hammered in with Rose and her sister Paige, I believe her name is.
Mm.
Their pendants.
Yeah.
You got the yin yang of the dark side and the light side and the temple. And Rey and Kylo struggling with dealing with like her getting pulled towards the dark and him getting pulled towards the light. And what was the third one that I came up with? Now I'll just move on to the joke one. Poor communication kills. Like you have like was it General Laura Dern?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like her character, all she had to do was tell Poe exactly what her plan was. Like he asked her, he's like, I just need to know that you have a plan. She's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like,
That's such
I'm
a
not going to tell you anything.
boy.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell you anything. And then like he goes off and like tries to do this whole mission, which ultimately got a whole lot of people killed off.
Yeah.
And it would have been a whole lot more.
Karen Demeron.
Yeah. Totally pulled a Karen. But like, in his defense, nobody told him anything until Leia showed up and like knocked him the fuck out.
That's the thing. Like as the whatever she ended up being general or whatever, like their position was when she was leading the crew. Like, look, you have to know at that point that Poe commands a lot of respect among everybody on the ship. Like he can just take over, which he clearly fucking did.
He easily pulled a mutiny.
Yeah. Like it was the easiest mutiny I've ever seen in my life, and like you have to know that he has that kind of clout. If he asks you, "Hey, what the fuck are we doing?" You can't just be like, "Get the fuck out of here, fly boy."
Yeah, and it's like and he came at her with like he was clearly pissed off, but he came at her with respect. He's just like, "Hey, like I know you're in charge now. All I need to know is that we're moving towards something. That's all I need to know." And like she refused to, and like Leia gave like a throwaway line where she's just like, "Oh, she's not." Concerned with being the hero, she's concerned with saving lives. Like, no,
if she was concerned with saving lives, she would have just told him.
That's such a bullshit justification.
It's like all she had to do was just say that, and he would have run along with the plan.
And that mutiny could have gotten so much more deadly if this wasn't, like if it wasn't for plot points that needed to.
The one thing I did like is how they established, like in the first movie, that the stun is those blue circles.
Yeah.
So it was really funny to see them going off in the background. But I mean, that was such a bad sitcom or bad comedy movie trick.
And I thought she was really wasted.
Yeah, she like it. They wasted her by turning her into a cliche.
Yeah.
But I will say, all right, Chris, do you want to say something? Because I've got a rant.
Well, go on your rant. Give me 1 second. I just want to explain the Karen joke for anybody who hasn't seen the Marvel shows. Karen from Daredevil. Beth Rich and I have this running joke that we all hate Karen, which is true. We hate her because she basically, through action or inaction, usually being, not telling everybody the whole story, gets people killed. So just so everybody's in on this joke.
That's an episode in itself.
But as far as themes go, I was thinking about giving this a 0, but the point is what we were talking about, the dark and the light in the past. And even though I don't think it was wholly successful, most of that revolved around, the one part of the movie that I thought was mostly the strongest. So yeah, I'd probably end up giving it the 1. And I agree with, I really enjoyed the Kylo Rey part, the stuff especially. I thought they were phenomenal, the two of them. So
maybe I can swing a little bit into a stronger one here because I've got a lot to say, and I'm gonna title this rant "The Gray," which is what I think this movie is all about, and where I think they should be going with the next episode.
I really hope that they do.
And if they're not going there with the next episode, I think they're making a big mistake. The entire point of this movie, the reason to call it The Last Jedi, is because, the Jedi should die. And the fact that they remain split at the end of this movie, I actually was hoping that they would come towards like a center. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was hoping, like when you saw the trailer, which, like the Kylo reaching his hand out to Rey in the trailer, that's what I kind of thought was going to happen. Everybody thought that, Rey's going to go to the dark side. I actually thought it was more likely that Rey was reaching out to Kylo, which does happen earlier in the movie. Mm-hmm. But what I really wanted to happen, and what I'm basing this entire rant on, is, like I said, the gray. This idea that the Jedi and the Sith are these two ideals that are just destructive to each other, in like similar to matter and antimatter, right? There's a line in this movie where
Luke?
I just completely the Lord the Snoke, yeah. Jesus. Man. I've had too many wines. Where Snoke says the dark rises and the light to meet it. Mm. And to me, I think I saw that in a trailer or something beforehand. I think I saw that line before this. And like I've been thinking about it since I heard it, because to me, that line means, and should mean, neither one of these, like, both of these, if they exist separately, will destroy each other. Mm-hmm. And there needs to be both sides of that existing in harmony in order for, and like, that's kind of something that's never been raised before in Star Wars. It's always, there's the light and there's the dark. There's nothing in the middle. Or the thing in the middle is the people who get steamrolled by this war that's happening, like by this crazy war that's happening. And I think that they have a really good opportunity, especially the way that this ends. I kind of hoped going into it that it would end as starting to come together, but I think it's even better that they almost came together and then broke so hard, because that'll make it so much more, if this happens, if this turns into like a combined, like a bringing together of all the people of the galaxy, you know, at the end of this, and, you know, coming to the gray, as I'm calling it, that sharp break at the end of this movie will be so important to how that's viewed. And I really hope that is, you know, the main, like, I hope that they can pull that off. And I don't know, because J.J. Abrams is doing the next movie, so he's I don't necessarily trust him.
No, but I don't either.
But I think that would be brilliant. Kind of showing the shades of gray that run throughout the Empire. Yeah. Like, nobody's all good or all bad.
Exactly. And that always bothered me, especially in episode 2.
Yeah.
When they were talking about how like the Jedi, like when Anakin's like using the Force to peel an orange or something like that, and he's just like, "Oh, Obi-Wan would kill me if he saw me doing this." I'm like, "Really?" Like, something little like that is like almost a one-way ticket to the dark side. Like, just that little bit. Like, why is it so hard?
Yeah, because the Jedi is so rigid and the Sith are so rigid. They're both like different sides of the same coin, and they don't realize that they're a coin. I guess.
So the Jedi are just like, it's like, you can't use Force for personal gain, or else you're going straight to the dark side. It's like, you can't give a shit about anybody, or else you're going to the light side.
Yeah. And it's crazy. Like,
it's totally like that Rick and Morty thing where, like, when they get split up, you think the Dark Morty, it's just like Rick feels like him caring about people as part of his poison. So that's a good juxtaposition.
Every actual character that we've seen, you know, like, obviously not Snoke or Palpatine, don't give a shit about anybody else. But like, actual character
saved Anakin at the end.
Every actual character that we've seen has had their moments where they waver to one side or the other. And I think the problem is, and the reason that people get driven to one side or the other, and this is kind of the truth in real life too, which I don't want to get into a big rant about politics or religion or any of that shit, but the fact that you can't accept that people hold both of these things within them as a person drives them to one side or another.
And that's what started off Kylo's downfall is because Luke, for 1 second, is just like, oh, he's got all this dark side in him. Got to kill him off.
Yeah.
And he's just like, wait a second.
But
no.
But that was so awesome because you got his side where Kylo destroyed everything, and then you got Kylo's side where Luke came in to murder him, and you find out the truth was right in the middle.
Yeah, exactly.
That was great.
Well, the other thing is, Luke told that truth, and who knows how true that is. In reality, who knows? Because you heard Kylo's version, you heard Luke's version,
and then you heard Luke's revised version.
No, I mean, yeah, Luke gave a very bullshit version, which was obviously bullshit in the beginning, but you heard Luke's revised version. But you have two versions of this. You have Luke's version, you have Kylo's version. I don't know if either one of them are telling the entire truth. Maybe Luke got closer than he's even willing to admit to killing Kylo.
Right.
Maybe Kylo realized that Luke wasn't actually going to kill him and still fucking brought the house down on him anyway. Like, who knows they are both very unreliable narrators.
But they gave you enough information at that third telling where that all of the above.
Well, that's supposed to be the one that you take as truth.
But the thing is, what he's saying could be truth, but what you're saying about, like, even then could be an exaggeration on both parts of truth. The point is, of that scene was, you've got two extremes, but the answer is going to be in the middle, even if what we saw is not the exact truth.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right.
Regardless, I give themes a very strong one. It's somewhat contingent on the next movie, I suppose, but I really like what I'm seeing in terms of exploring the middle ground between the light and the dark.
Yes.
And I think that Luke has the right idea. I think the Jedi should die, and I think the Sith, and I think that Kylo has the right idea. I think the Sith should die.
I mean, that's and like what bothered me the most after all that was said and done. Rey stole the books.
Rey stole the books. Kylo became the fucking emperor.
Yeah.
You know, like it's.
And I wish somebody would have fucking killed Bill Weasley, whatever, the commander.
Oh,
You know what? I like him as an
Hux.
Donald.
God,
what's his
I
name?
hate him.
Donald
Donald Gleason. Yeah, I like him. I like him.
I like the actor too. His character. I hate his character.
You're supposed to hate his character.
No, but he's stupid. Why I hate him.
Yeah. So is Kylo. Like, they're both two unprepared kids running an entire
children.
empire.
Yeah,
They're both ineffective. Like, it's obvious.
But they shouldn't be ineffective.
Speaking of which, let's
right.
call it on themes.
Yeah.
I'm giving it a 1. I'm giving it a 1.
Yeah,
1. All right, so we're all going to give it 1s. We're going to go antagonist. Now that we're talking about Donald Gleason already, perhaps he's an antagonist.
Well,
we'll see.
that was my question, because I'm probably going to take. When we get to the other two, I'll explain better. But my whole point was, like, who is the antagonist in this?
Yeah,
Hux.
Did Poe keep calling him Hugs in the beginning?
Yes,
I thought so.
Like, I like to. When The Force Awakens, I considered Hux, Kylo, and Snoke as, like, the unholy trinity, like, forming one antagonist.
Yeah.
And in this one, it's a little harder to do.
They're very broken up in this one.
Yeah.
You're right.
Like, each one of them has their own agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Hux really is only going with Snoke so far as, like, he's using him as, like, a security blanket. Which is like, I can do whatever the fuck I want as long as he protects me from Kylo.
Yeah. And then he dies, and it's a problem.
Yeah. And, like, Snoke, just what the fuck? Like, what was his point? What was it? He's like basically just showed up to sow discord within Rey's mind and.
Well, yeah, I mean, he.
Thanks, Rich. You cleared up the confusion in my mind.
Well, here's the thing. Like, Snoke, I wish that they had done the mind meld between Rey and Kylo. They did that very well. I think this movie did that very well. Mm. I wish that it had been more clear that it was Snoke doing it. And, like, that's kind of what I thought at first.
No, I like that reveal at the end that Snoke was doing
it.
Yeah, but it wasn't done in a way that was like, to just have it dropped on you that was the case, and him just saying it, like, who, again, unreliable. No. Who knows if that was actually the case? They had a meld at the end after he was dead.
At first, I thought it was Luke.
I thought it was Luke too.
Because I thought it was like one of his tests for Rey.
See, that would actually have been better.
I actually thought that was because he said testing starts at dawn.
Yeah.
It was light when he came to get her.
Yep.
So I thought that's exactly why I thought it was
Because
losing.
he asked her what happened, and she said, I was cleaning my blaster and it went off.
Yeah.
It would have made so much more sense if it was Luke.
Yeah. But, well, on the surface it would have made more sense, but if you look deeper into it, why the fuck would he wanted them two to get together?
No, but it would have been a good test to see if because then he could like sever the connection. If
He already knew she went straight to dark though at that point. Like,
Well, it was
yeah.
immediately afterward.
But the one thing I'm going to say, while we're thinking about it, is I love the fact at the end where he's like, "I know who your parents are," and he says, they were drunkards. They sold you for whiskey. They're nobody. They're buried in a commoner's pit. Like, I love the fact that he made
pauper's grave.
Yeah, the fact that he said that they're no one.
You take that at face value? That's obviously a lie. Like, that's not true.
I hope so. I hope it is, because I'm tired of fucking,
It's absolutely not true.
I believe it is, because I really don't think that her parents are anybody special. I mean, I think it's more personal reasons. Like, I don't want her to be a Skywalker or a Kenobi or whatever bullshit family that their old name that they're bringing up from like the series.
I think they said that they're nobody on purpose. Like, that was like a internal and external fourth wall kind of message. Like, people, don't worry, she's not a Skywalker or a Solo or anybody. She's nobody. She just happens to have the Force.
That's not like that's the thing.
Like, that stupid little stable.
So many
boy
things that are said in this movie, you absolutely should not take at face value.
This movie, I feel like this script needed.
Why the fuck would he tell her the truth?
The script
Why would
really
he? Like, what is? I guess to
well,
try to win her.
Yeah, of course, he's trying to bend her to the dark side at that point.
But
right?
what the problem with this movie was the script really needed another person to come in and check it. It needed to simmer some more. It didn't feel done.
I can see what you mean by that. I'm not sure I feel the same way, but like I know what you mean. And like, you're right. There are things that could have been better, but
and that's probably part of what made me angry, is because when it was good and the stuff when we're talking about where it gets deep was awesome. And the fact that even in there, they didn't quite put everything together, as we were talking about, like Luke should have been teaching her she has to embrace the dark as well as the light and find balance, which would have then made sense if he was the one who was trying to bring the two of them together. And so what I'm saying
as a lesson to show her that there's not really much of a difference between the.
Yeah, and the pieces were all there. That's the problem, is that we're making better connections, in my opinion, than they did.
Well, let me bring this back around. That being said, where are we standing with antagonists? Because that's the question that we're on. I think we're going far afield at this point.
That's true. I don't know. I think I might have to give it a 0.
I agree.
I don't find the antagonist any of the antagonists effective in this.
I actually thought that Adam Driver as Kylo Ren did a fantastic job in this.
But I didn't consider him the antagonist.
I absolutely consider him the antagonist. He's Rey's antagonist 100%. He is.
No, he's Rey's antithesis. I wouldn't say he's the antagonist.
He is her foil, and that's he. But in that same way, he is spurring her into action at every moment of this movie that she is in.
Yeah, but in what way did he really give her trouble? Like, the second that she found out that he wasn't going to join the light, she's just like, "Fuck you! I'm rejecting everything that you have to say."
It's not about her joining him; it's about her fighting him.
So you think that?
It's about her.
All right. So you're saying that he did make her a stronger protagonist, or made her double down on her heroism.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, she did struggle with joining him. There was that initial struggle. She, throughout the second, act of, I think there's actually probably more than 3 acts in this movie, but the second act of this movie, we'll say, she goes through the stages of, oh, I hate you. Oh, every time we see each other, I kind of understand you more and more. And then by the end of her time on the island, she kind of comes around to his line of thinking. And then when she actually meets him...
Yeah, but that's only because she thinks that she could still bring him towards the light.
Right, of course. But that's the classic struggle, right? She's his antagonist, and he's her antagonist. He's trying to bring her to the dark. She's trying to bring him to the light. And that is what they run into. But obviously you're only seeing it from her point of view. So like you get she's trying to bring him to the light. Oh, I can change him. I can turn him. But when she gets there, he immediately arrests her, brings her to Snoke, and they have that face off where he ends up. So like, I guess the idea is he kills Snoke to save her to some extent, but he also kills Snoke for his own reasons.
Yep.
He wants to run the galaxy.
Yeah.
He wants to run shit, and he thinks that she would be a powerful ally. And this is actually why I think he's lying to her when he tells her that she's nobody, because he immediately says, "Hey, run this world with me, and like tell me who you are." And he brings that upon her, and it feels like that's him reaching out to like a sister-like figure, we'll say, I suppose. That's what it felt like to me. And then like when she says I'm nobody, he was just going to go along with whatever she said, I think. So she says I'm nobody. He makes her say whatever she wants to hear.
But he said that she was nobody.
He makes her say, no, he doesn't say that she's nobody. He says, tell me who you think you are. And then she says, I'm nobody. And then he says, you're right, you are nobody. If she said, I'm your sister, he would have said, you're right, you are my sister.
I don't know. I don't think that would have happened.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. He wants to tell her what she wants so that she will come over to his side. In the same way that she wants to tell him kind of what he wants to hear to come over to the light.
No, but like he did start off by saying like, I know who your parents are.
Yeah. Go on.
Yeah. And then he's like,
so how does this ruin my point?
No, I mean like
he's giving her hope at that point.
Yeah, but like
so he sows the seeds.
Yeah, but didn't he say that she was nobody first? Like you know the truth. They sold you.
Oh man. I think he does say something like that in like a moment of anger at some point, but like it is very unconvincing to me that is the case.
I'm just like
I think at that moment he would have agreed to whatever he would have said. Yes, you're right. Whatever she said. Because that's the moment where he's trying to turn her. At the same time, she's trying to turn him. Right? So, like, you're caught up in this, like, struggle of wills, and both of them, and this is where we get back into the gray, both of them kind of want to turn at that moment. Neither one of them do. Both of them hold on to their strong center.
Convictions.
Yeah. But anyway, I think that Kylo Ren, and aside from the Kylo Ren stuff, I think the Kylo Ren stuff is really cool. I think that Adam Driver does a great job of acting in this movie, where I didn't think he did in Force Awakens.
Yeah.
And he still has a really punchable face, I suppose. That'll be true of him forever. Like, what are you going to do about that?
I like the promise for his character, but he fell short for me.
I think he was good for me. The other two main villains, Snoke kind of fell short, just because he was very easily defeated, and Hux was kind of clipped. His wings were clipped right away by both Snoke and then Kylo Ren. And
being an idiot.
And no, it has nothing to do with being an idiot. That was just a side effect.
He was an idiot,
of
dude.
Him getting,
But how so?
Are you kidding? He felt, first of all, when they started the movie off with Poe doing that phone gag, and he's sitting there falling for it. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I
don't want to go crazy.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
Yeah, we get it. I'm gonna give it a 1 just for Kylo Ren. I agree the other two are weaker, but I like Adam Driver in this. I think he shows a lot of promise as the big bad in the last movie, and I think that he's leaning. I think he is the promise of leaning towards a collaborative resolution at the end of this, to some extent. Like perhaps a standoff or what you call whatever, you know, like
Yeah.
just kind of like the crossover of the Jedi and the Sith. Like, I think that he and Rey are the key to that.
All right. I'm still going to give it a 0.
Yep.
0?
That's
Zero?
that's like putting too much faith into the next movie for me.
Yeah, we'll see. J.J. Abrams. Anyway, so it's going to be on to me with protagonists, and I'm going to have to go with the trilogy from the last movie, right? Like, I assume it's the same, or I think it's the same. Poe, Finn, and Rey, and I think that they are all solid in this movie. I don't have much bad to say about them. I think they're all good actors. They're all pretty well written in terms of their like heroic parts, and they all have like really cool scenes that progress their characters. I'm not going to say too much about this because I think it's the thing that needs to be said the least in this movie.
I agree, and I'm just gonna say this about it. I'm gonna give it a 0 because I think by design, I don't think there was one. I don't feel like anybody was a strong enough protagonist. I don't feel that. I feel like, and this was telling Beth before, I feel like the Rey, Kylo, Luke thing should have been more of the core, and everything should have been, and I been kind of periphery, and I don't think they structured it that. I think they were trying to give too many people equal time instead of saying this is the core of the movie. So, I mean, to me, it's not a slight on the movie. This is me not hating on the movie, but I'm just saying by design, I don't see a clear protagonist. You know, the way the movie was presented. I mean, that's my opinion, but just in like I said, I'm not hating on it, and it's just for the same way as we said about other movies. Not a slight against the movie, but just the way it's designed, I don't see a clear protagonist or clear protagonists. Okay. Though the movie would have been better if they had structured it so that they were the nexus, had little chase scene to be a periphery, and then like had Finn and Rose go off from the beginning and kind of have their little James Bond thing going off on the side. So you'd split it like 50. No, exactly. But the thing is, I think the center was strong enough and interesting enough, and there's enough stuff to deal with. They could have really focused on that more than they did, because I'd get into that, and then we'd see something stupid like those little pog things, which would drive me up, you know, and you know,
Pogs is a different story.
But whatever. There,
backing out for
the whole point is, I'm just gonna say by design, I'm gonna give it a 0. But I want to make it clear that this is one case where I'm gonna say it's not a slight against the movie. I'm just gonna say the way it was designed. This is the way I see it.
Okay.
To me, they filled the role of protagonist well enough. I mean, more so for me than the other 3 did for antagonists.
Mm.
I mean, thinking more into it, Poe and Finn really didn't, like, their actions were kind of for naught. I mean, it was all like more character development than anything.
Yeah.
More so than like having effect on the plot. Rey, I guess, helped set a lot of things into motion. Like the transfer of power, the continuation of the Jedi teachings, all that good stuff. But it was like, judging by the end of the movie, like Luke did more for this story and the rebellion as a whole by just kind of showing up for the last 5 minutes of the of the fucking fight.
And the funny thing is, I like Luke the best in this movie than I had in like the other ones. I thought, I really,
Mark Hamill's gotten much better as an actor.
Mark Hamill as an actor, but I'm also saying Luke as a character, aside from those minor things about the, you know, running away from the dark when he should have been teaching her to blend him to. I thought, like, as a character, I thought Luke was one of the ones who made it the most of the smart decisions. I'm not saying he was flawless, but I'm just saying that, like, I thought as a character he was great in this.
Yeah. All right. So I'm giving it a 1. Is that a 1 for you, Rich?
Yeah.
Or 1 for you? 0?
Yep.
1, 1, 0. All right. So let's move on to supporting characters, and Rich, you're gonna be up for that.
All right. Everyone else, actually, as a whole, I dug all of the supporting characters. including the porgs. I did not hate them. Surprisingly, because I hate the Ewoks.
The porg word is decidedly less annoying, I'll tell you that. But
Then
I'm tired of cute CGI, and it's just like cutesies.
well, that's what Star Wars is all about, man. Like
they weren't even in the movie enough to really be that big.
No, but what I'm saying is, if they were by themselves, it would have been fine. But in the casino, and there's so much cutesy in this film, I was just like, oh god.
they weren't in the casino.
No, but with all the with all the CGI shit, like you had the weird fat lady alien singing at that one point. I'm like, oh god, really? Are we doing this for real?
Fair enough. I liked.
I don't even count that as a supporting character, though. It's kind of like.
I'm not counting her. I'm just saying that while the little cutesy was driving me nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought Rose was okay. I mean, I liked her sister better. And
she was on screen for 3 minutes.
I know, and she had no lines. Well, she had barely any lines.
Yeah.
But like, I connected more with her than I did really with Rose. I liked Laura. What was her name?
Laura Dern.
Laura Dern's character. I liked her, even though they like not like ignoring the whole cliche.
Holdo.
Holdo. Like they like. Ignoring the whole cliche thing, which is like, I'm the new boss in charge, and I have a problem with the young upstart apprentice of the old guard. Like ignoring that, like her whole character choosing to sacrifice herself to save the resistance. Like I dug that. I guess Leia and Luke count.
Yeah.
Like Leia, I enjoyed her grooming Poe to be a leader. I like the whole dynamic between the two of them. She's like kind of treating him as like the son that she lost.
That's a good point.
Luke, I loved his arc, especially his when Yoda showed up and him like pretty much turning back into that young student.
Yeah.
The Yoda scene was actually not just fan wank. It actually served an important purpose.
No, it served a very important purpose.
When I knew he was going to show up at some point. I just had this feeling. And I thought him being in it was actually really good. It wasn't a wink. It wasn't like, hey kids, look who we brought in here. No. He wasn't shoehorned. He came in a purpose.
You got a flamethrower?
Where Luke was going to go destroy it, and he was having doubts, and then he's, basically Yoda's like, "Yep, you're right."
It was like it was one final lesson for Luke.
Yeah,
where he's just like burns the tree down, and he's just like, Rey already has what she needs. Deciding not to tell Luke that she stole the books.
Yeah,
but also like it was just a nice moment to see him brought back, like to have him taught another lesson. And to like help him move towards peace, to get him to become one with the Force.
And I like the fact that he basically burned himself out to help.
Yeah.
Basically, he was a distraction, but the whole point was, give everything to save. It's like he gave everything he gave up himself just so that a small group, the spark, could have a chance to create the Force fire.
I love, like his main bit was to be a distraction. But I love him walking out and like everybody wordlessly looking upon him in awe.
Yep.
And him not acknowledging him just walking out through the front door, and like you could just see their minds blown, their hope building. And then it's just like, all right, he's giving us time, we need to get the fuck out of here.
Yep.
Yeah, I like Luke and Leia in this. That's all I'll really say about them, because obviously a lot of the other supporting characters, the more I think about it, the less I like them. Like Rose was kind of meh.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, she was kind of like
I was what?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I wouldn't quite call her a plot device, but she served her purpose well. I mean, she gave perspective that she was a fish out of water that Finn needed to kind of create like Benicio del Toro's character DJ, without her establishing the fact that these people made money selling arms. You know what I'm saying? Is she to me she served the purpose.
He could have got that information from anybody.
No, but what I'm saying is
honestly, I think that Rose is she's not that standout character that Star Wars has had in the past as like a supporting character. She's just not that. Who is that, actually, is Benicio del Toro's character.
DJ.
He is awesome.
Yeah, he's incredible.
He was really good. And, that is down a lot, I think, to Del Toro's acting.
With
that too,
question.
and I think his message that the character had, too, is where, like,
yes.
it doesn't matter.
Yes. And
like, he actually...
I meant to say this in themes. He plays into that...
Great character.
That's exactly what I was going to say, yeah.
When his last line in the movie is... He's saying like it's not personal, kid, it's business, basically.
Exactly.
What does he say? He's like they're destroying us or they're killing us off. He's like, yeah, and tomorrow like you'll be doing the same thing.
Yeah, you'll be killing them.
Yeah.
It makes no difference. And he says, no, you're wrong. Finn says, no, you're wrong. And he says, maybe, and he walks off.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
He just says maybe and he walks off. And like that I think is the main point of this movie, and that's why I love his character so much, because he is that character that embodies the what this movie is trying to say.
I'm a big defender of Star Trek Into Darkness. Originally, he was supposed to play the role that Benedict Cumberbatch did, and Benedict Cumberbatch, while I think he's excellent and did a great job with the role, part of me always was just like, I really wish Benicio del Toro got it because I really wanted to see what he would do with it. After seeing him as DJ, I'm kind of like, I love Benedict Cumberbatch, but oh my God, I would love to have seen what he did with it, because I would like to have seen more of him, but he was so good. Every minute he was on screen, like when he looked like he was picking his teeth with that piece of paper or whatever, and he used it to bypass, like, they'd always say, like, how you bypass alarms with, like, the stick, the foil from the gum. I thought that was such a neat little thing. He was definitely, I wish we had seen more of him. That's why I wish they would have just established that somehow established that Finn and Rose,
he could come back.
Like,
he's not dead as far as we know.
That like Finn would, I'd be okay if they said Finn was all right and we sent him and this engineer off, whatever. Establish that they went off to do something earlier in the film, so they could have spent more time not getting to the casino, but being in the casino. That, hey, we brought this low-level engineer because she grew up on this planet. You're going to need her to get this information. We're running out of fuel. We're being chased, and not do the slow chase with the Bronco, but actually, and I think, but do it more like, maybe Battlestar Galactica in 33, where it looks a lot less ridiculous, and really utilized him, because I thought it was really great, the whole not sure whether to trust him or not. And I really liked, I thought they did I thought he was just phenomenal. One person I don't understand, and they said they were going to give her a bigger role in this one, I still don't get her, was Captain Phasma.
Yeah.
I mean, just point of trivia, Abrams is a big fan of the Phantasm movies, and Captain Phasma, the Silver Stormtrooper, was named was a tribute to the Silver Balls and Phantasm. Just
yeah. She was kind of pointless.
I don't understand her.
As far as Benicio del Toro's character, what's his name?
DJ.
As far as DJ goes, I wish they had just come out and like done a 1-minute exposition or something about how he was actually the guy that they were looking for.
Yeah.
Because it was so clear that that's what should have happened.
Yeah.
And like, he gave his rose to the other guy somehow, and that's all they had to say. Like,
or he sold off the
actually the guy that they
like he sold off the rose in
something like that. Like
for chips
it was just so obvious, and they didn't do that. But
oh my God, the BB-8 is a slot machine. Oh my God, that was
and BB-8 does a great job in this too.
But
I like
him
BB-8.
as a slot machine was like, so stupid. I understand they had to set up.
I love him firing off the coin.
They had to set up the coin gag later, which there was a payoff to it.
C-3PO was as annoying as ever. So you know what? I'll actually give him credit for that because it's somewhat endearing at this point. But anyway,
I thought there wasn't enough R2.
Yeah, but BB-8 is taking over for R2. This is like any R2 thing is just like a little cameo.
One of the wonderful things, though, at this point. One of the wonderful things though was when Luke was just like, he goes in the Falcon, he sees R2, and he's just like, "Hey, old friend," he's just like, "I can't get involved," and he plays the hologram from the first movie. She's like, I mean, that was the one part that really hit me emotionally. I'm like sniffling. I'm like, that was such a beautiful moment. And even if you don't utilize R2 all that much, his presence in there again was not like Yoda, where it wasn't like, "Hey kids, here's R2." Actually, R2 served a point, even whatever little bit he had in there.
Thinking about it, he is, as much as they don't show him, he has become very wise, and his old droid age.
Right, exactly.
In a lot of ways, less
like droid years.
Yeah, he just like kind of just shows up to like
remind people of what they should be doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, he gives the rebellion hope at the end of Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Tells Luke to get his shit together in this one.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what he does in the third. Like maybe he's the one that brings Kylo over to the light.
It's the best when he's like, and Luke is like, "Hey, it's a sacred island. Watch your language."
Yes.
Just an enjoyable little.
It's really funny how in this film, like with R2, less is definitely more.
Yeah.
He what he did was just phenomenal.
All right. So what are we giving supporting?
I'm giving it a strong 1.
1.
I'm actually giving it a somewhat soft 1, but I'm going to give it a 1 nonetheless. I liked it, but I thought a lot of the supporting characters were kind of weak. But a lot of them were very strong, so we got that going.
I'm going to say like Carrie Fisher's daughter. I don't know if she had a character name in this one, but I liked what she did.
Like that as a tribute, you know, like that's kind of great. Good call, by the way. Anyway, let's move on to dialogue. Chris, that's going to be you.
As we all know from these podcasts, if you listen to it, I give a lot of latitude towards dialogue, but to be honest with you, I thought most of the dialogue in this was pretty atrocious. I mean, it had its moments, but again, it's one of those things that needed simmering. It needed somebody to come in and, because some of the dialogue was passable, but some of it was just like cringeworthingly, was just dreadful. It was cliche. I'm giving it a pretty strong 0. And as I said, it's just that I think this movie needed another pass. This dialogue was one of those things where it was like, yeah, I could give some of it credit, but other times it was just like, I was cringing in my seat listening to some of this dialogue. And let's face facts. We've established before, Star Wars is not famous for its dialogue. I mean, but I mean, like, Attack of the Clones has the single most worst dialogue of any film I've ever seen, pretty much.
Sure.
Okay. And like Star Wars, I love the tongue in cheek of it. I don't think it's the best, but it's very clever and it has its great moments. Empire is the same way. But like this film, I feel like the dialogue wasn't even, it lacked the charm of like the bad dialogue from the other films, excluding Attack of the Clones. Well, excluding pretty much the trilogy. The prequels.
The prequel trilogy.
But I mean, even in like The Force Awakens or Return of the Jedi, I mean, I could forgive a lot of that dialogue because it was done well. It was like, let's just say, is bad dialogue done well? You know, I'm painting with extremely broad point, brush to make my point, is that in this film, somebody who knows how to do dialogue really needed to come in and fix the dialogue in this film. So, yeah, I thought I'm giving this a 0.
What do you think, Rich?
For me personally, I think the good bits of dialogue far outweigh the bad ones because those are the only bits that really stick in my head. And I don't know. You guys can judge me or whatever for
it's your opinion, dude.
Whether that, whatever that means as far as like, if there was like if there was like just that little kernel of like good dialogue for the whole thing, like whether that warrants a 1, but
I'm actually more on your side, Rich, than Chris's. I think that the conversations, while sometimes perhaps over earnest, we'll say, at points, I think I was pretty riveted by the dialogue throughout most of this, even if there were a couple of, I wouldn't say there's anything like really cringeworthy to me that I can remember, but yeah, there were certainly times where the dialogue wasn't great, but there were also a lot of other times, like I really loved all the conversations between Kylo and Rey. I really loved all the conversations between Rey and Luke.
Mm-hmm.
Every reunion in this movie was awesome. Like when Rey sees Finn again for the first time, when Rey meets Poe for the first time, when Poe and Finn see each other again
Actually,
for the first time.
I did not realize that. I did not remember that her and Poe had never met.
Yeah, me neither. But
yeah, me either.
Sense.
That was awesome.
But I really liked all of those, and even though they weren't the most wordy affairs for the most part, I thought every line of dialogue was poignant in all of those.
I think this movie did a lot with. Let's probably go more into style, but I think this movie did a lot with less is more.
Star Wars has always done a lot with embraces. I've noticed. And that's how a lot of those, there's the long embrace between Finn and Rey when they get back together. There's the kiss between Finn and Rose.
Yeah. Did you notice because in the last film they got a lot of shit because Leia hugged Rey instead of hugging Chewie after Solo died.
Yeah.
So you notice they made a point of showing Leia and Chewie hugging.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was funny.
It was also
all right, maybe I'm giving that. Maybe the dialogue wasn't completely atrocious. I'd still give it a 0, but maybe a softer 0. But
right.
No, I know I came down pretty hard on it, but I just kept thinking of things like Laura. I keep thinking of the broken phone gag at the beginning, and Laura Dern keeps saying Godspeed. I'm like, when did we ever establish that in this thing? I'm like, oh, come on. It's just. But yeah,
I like the broken phone gag in the beginning.
I thought it was funny. It didn't really.
Poe pulled it
kind of out of place, but
But the thing is, Poe pulled it off really well. But it would have been much better if Bill Weasley had been like, I know you're trying to fuck for time. We're going to go through the same way. And you know what I'm saying? It's like, him because Poe did a great job with it. I just think that, I'm going to call him Bill Weasley. I don't remember his character's name.
General Hux.
General Hux. I thought he was the one who ruined the gag more. They could have pulled it off.
Actually, you know what? I think you have a point there where they took it on a little too long. Like when he restarted his speech and then he cut him off again, I think at that point he should have been like, okay, you're just messing with me.
We're going to fuck your people up. Yeah.
All right. Well, it sounds like it's going to be a 1, 1, and a 0 for dialogue. And that's going to go on to style with me. And it's tough to, I think I probably said this for Rogue One, and I probably said it for Force Awakens. It's tough to screw up the style in a Star Wars movie. It happened. three movies in a row. But at some point, which we don't speak of anymore. But I think that this movie does a very good job of keeping the feel of a Star Wars movie. As soon as you see the initial screen crawl, it's hard not to smile.
Yeah.
Seeing that come up. And John Williams music is always amazing.
Yeah.
Just the scene fades, the fades between scenes.
They didn't go too crazy with the wipes, which was kind of cool.
Yeah,
this is nice.
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
I think there was. So I know you like all the cutesy little creatures, but there's a good creature design in this, obviously, which I think happens in every Star Wars movie. I like the diamond foxes or whatever the fuck they were.
Crystalline foxes.
Yeah,
they were cool, but as Beth and I said, when it came to the casino part, we really would have rather have seen a full on Henson studio going in there instead of
mostly humans and then a couple random creatures.
A couple things, and then the rest of them are CGI crap. I mean, it would have been a great opportunity to get the Henson Studios in. If you saw Farscape, not all of those were complex puppets, but they made them so any imperfections, they developed the characters well.
Yeah.
I mean, even for a background character, I think if you used more practical, creatures instead of doing CGI, I think that would have benefited for it. One thing I'm going to say is one of the criticisms I've had, and I've heard in the prequels, it's wow, the technology looks more advanced than it did in Star Wars. I thought they did a really good job. Even when they're showing the displays on the screen of the ships following, they look like the old Atari, 32-bit things. I thought stylistically making the technology look closer to 1977, not exactly. I mean,
right.
But
especially when they start pulling out all the old stuff from the abandoned base.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Style is one of the strongest things about this film, and I loved it. I loved Snoke's room. The fact that, I mean, yeah, granted, the ending with Snoke was kind of, I mean, this was definitely pull some from Empire and pull some from Return of the Jedi, but I loved how Snoke's room was just red and he had that one little mirror that gave you an outside to what it looked like.
And his random, like, guard. Like all the, like
the Praetorian guard.
Like everyone has a different weapon all around the room.
But that was such a neat thing
cool.
to have this, to have his throne room be this just like blank red.
Yeah.
I thought visually it was a very interesting movie.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm giving Style of 1 solely on Luke's final scene of him watching the twin sunrise or sunset.
That was cool. But I wondered if that was in his mind too, because
it could have been,
which I thought would have been, which is
like,
fine.
Yeah, but like, what did bother me, like the lightsaber fights. So what I dig about this new trilogy is that they're going closer towards the original trilogy as far as lightsaber battles go. It's not the like fast-paced, acrobatic.
It's not Yoda doing like 900 flips
of the prequels,
Oh
which
my
I
God,
thought
that was so stupid.
Like, I liked. Like I think a Phantom Menace, I liked the Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Darth Maul fight, and I think they got a little too creative. They were trying to top themselves too much.
Yeah, as for a choreographed fight, that was actually a good fight.
Yeah, and like this one is going back to the originals, but I think it went too far. Like that, what was supposed to be an epic battle between Rey, Kylo, and the Praetorian Guard, I think was just too.
See, I loved that.
It was.
I like that a lot.
I don't know. It was like it was too realistic for me, I guess, is what I'm trying to like. It wasn't. I would have liked it to be gussied up a little more.
But I mean, here's two people who really like Rey never had any real formal.
Rey had no formal training. I'm assuming Kylo just like stopped his formal training halfway.
But
I'm assuming Kylo was like a friggin' master.
He should be, and I think his fighting style should have reflected that instead of like. It looked too much like somebody who's just like kind of fighting by the seat of their pants without really having any skill to back it up.
The one thing that I liked is when they established that it was salt over the red thing. I loved when Luke could tell what Kylo was going to do by the way he moved his feet before he moved.
Yeah.
That was cool.
And that's what I'm going to get to now.
That
like
was really cool.
Luke, every time Luke fought, I loved it.
Yeah.
It was like watching the old kung fu films, the old master who just like kicks the shit out of anybody that fights him. Like when Rey came at him, the first, like when she got pissed off and fought him with the staff, like every move that she made, he would just like dodge and like rap on the back of the head, on the back. When Kylo
that was cool.
Yeah.
That was really
when
cool.
Kylo fought him, every move, every dodge, like every time he dodged, it would like appear behind him.
Yeah.
And just like continue to piss him off more, frustrate him more. Like I loved that.
Go on.
And I don't know. Yeah.
The only disparity I'm going to stay with style was at the end when they were in those like whatever little speeders they had. Some of that green screen work was pretty awful. I mean, I could tell that you could tell that like there's a cockpit for the speeders, and you could tell that like John Boyega and everybody else was just like, it's just like, yeah, this looks like you might as well have a rear projection for like this thing. But that's my only complaint as far as style goes. That was the only.
I do have to say the juxtaposition of the red on white.
Oh, looks sharp.
That was cool.
Fantastic.
That was
Oh
really
my
cool.
God. And the walkers at the end, the way they had their pose, the way they were like kind of like when they were nestled down to
the gorilla arms.
Yeah, that was the movie was beautifully shot. Don't
Just
get me
kinda
wrong.
Like the picking up the salt and like that scene was cool.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize what was going on when he walked out. I thought it was blood.
He was bleeding. Yeah.
I thought it was blood. And then he talks and he like goes, it's salt. Like that immediately explains everything. Really cool. And then you see the red is clay instead of blood like right away, which is really cool. But anyway, I'm going to give Style a 1.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's 1's all around for that. And let's go on to recommendation, Rich.
So I don't know. I guess I would recommend this. I mean, just if you've seen the others, if you plan on seeing the next one, see this movie. But I don't think like a casual moviegoer is going to get much out of this. I mean, they might, but damn, I don't know. Somebody else go. I'll come back to this.
I've been giving this a lot of thought, so I can go in.
Yeah.
I am definitely more of a Trekkie than a Star Wars guy, and I am definitely not a Trekkie purist. And I'm a little more of a purist with Star Wars because I don't go for I haven't really read more than a couple graphic novels in the 90s. So I base what's going on in film. And, I grew up with the original trilogy for all of its sports and everything. And I have to say, if you love Star Wars, you're going to go see this film. If you're asking me as like, if it's like, hey, I kind of like Star Wars, is this film worth it? I think Leia said it best, and I laughed at one point where she said something about, oh yeah, this has lost its spark, and this movie broke my heart. It really did. It really did, because it's just like the prequels were just awful. The Force Awakens got really silly, and it was like kind of a rehash of A New Hope, but it was A New Hope, but it was entertaining. It was fluff. It didn't really merit repeat viewings, but I enjoyed it. This film, I really wanted it to end. And when I'm sitting through a film wanting it to end, I cannot recommend it. And it broke my heart because, as we discussed, there's so much good in this movie. It really needed more time. It really needed more finesse. And to see this as being Carrie Fisher's last role, to see this is where, Luke's story ended, it could have been so much better. All the parts were there. And why I got mad at this film is because 1 minute I'm loving what's going on, and the next minute I'm like, this is so stupid. Why are they doing this way? Didn't anybody read this script before they okayed it? Didn't anybody give somebody a second chance? I cannot recommend this film. And the movie broke my heart. As I text Rich before this, I'm like, I don't know whether I'm more angry or more depressed. Because
it did happen.
This movie really, as I said, I came home, I was walking, I was playing with the dogs, I was making whipped cream, I was making dinner, I was cleaning the house because I was so antsy. The film broke my heart. I cannot recommend it. I know that sounds really harsh, but the truth of the matter is I enjoyed Force Awakens. I loved Rogue One. Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. I love those movies. Return of the Jedi is an okay movie. Again, when it's good, it's great. When it's bad, it's awful. And we all know that I just discount any of the special editions. I
Did you like this movie less than what's your order? I guess?
Okay, I would say Star Wars, and to me, 1977 Star Wars is Star Wars. It's Empire Strikes Back, Rogue One, and then I'd probably have to say Force Awakens, Revenge of the Sith, Phantom Menace, and Attack of the Clones is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life. It is just horrendous. So like in terms of Star Wars movies, that's where I'm going to go. I wouldn't say this is I'm not going to say this is even as bad as Revenge of the Sith. But I'm also going to say that I cannot recommend this movie. It is definitely getting a 4 from me out of 10. And I think that sits below average for me is right there.
Oh,
I did my best not to hate on this movie, but I really want you guys to understand that I'm not hating on it. It's just a matter of,
but you did
I don't hate it. It was just that it could have been so much better. And the fact that it didn't reach the potential that it could have, and they had time to do this. You could have said, hey, you know what? We're not going to keep to this stupid schedule. Release it in May, and 6 months later we'll put Solo out. Really give it a little more finesse, in the production thing. And I know that when you come to production, there's so much that goes into an actor's location, blah, 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 blah. I just felt this film was underdone, and I found it to be an extremely frustrating 2.5 hours.
All right. Rich. Well, I guess I should say what I'm going to give it. I think I am going to recommend this movie. I think if you enjoy Star Wars, this is a movie that fits into the nanology. Is that how you say 9 movies? it's nowhere near the worst of the 8 that are out right now in the the main series. I think it probably sits about 4th or 5th, so right in the middle. And that's kind of it. I think it's enjoyable. It's nowhere near the best. I don't think it's anywhere near the worst. And it's kind of how I feel about it. If you like Star Wars, go see it. I mean, it's a big part of, and any of these movies is going to be a big part of like that series, right? Like even the terrible prequels, which I hate all 3 of them. You need to see them at least once and like know what they're about. And they kind of they do in their way add to the canon and add to the story in the same way this movie does that too. I'm going to give it a pretty damn good score, to be honest. I think I'm going to end up giving it a 9, which I think it probably deserves somewhat lower than that, but nowhere near as bad as a 4, Chris.
Hey, man.
So I guess
if you had asked me how I felt coming out of the theater, I mean,
you might have given it a 2.
I would have been like, "Fuck this shit," No, I was way too numb when I came out of the theater. The movie upset me.
Anyway, Rich, what were you gonna say?
I'm gonna go to the middle and give it a Schrodinger's 1 or 0.
God damn!
You can't.
Rich's score isn't here at the same time.
So I get to choose whichever one I want.
Sure, it'll change the score depending on who's observing it. But no, I, you know what? Like you said, it's a Star Wars movie. If you're a fan, like I said before, if you're a fan, I mean, if you're casual going in and you've seen any of the others, I mean, it's worth a watch. I mean, it's important for the overall story to go see, so I guess I'll recommend it. But I'm torn. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm not saying it's a great one. It's just gray.
Wait, did I leave?
It is just great. Yes.
It is just great. Yeah, keeping the Steve-O's theme. Oh, wait, did I mention Return of the Jedi when you...
No, you did not mention it.
No,
Sorry,
I was wondering where that was going to be.
Okay, Return of the Jedi is one of these weird places. I'd probably put it around...
Do you think that this movie is worse than Return of the Jedi?
Yeah, a little... I don't know. They're both really frustrating movies. I'd probably put them both around, I'd probably say they're below average, both of them. So
I put this above Return of the Jedi for sure, and I put this like almost on par with Force Awakens, which of the main 8 that have come out so far, I think Force Awakens was number 3 for me, and this is close to that.
I figured it out. Okay, why more forgiving on the Force Awakens, even though decidedly some of the things were sillier, is because like the first Star Wars, as we discussed when we did a review, and check out our review, is that it's a tip to the old swashbuckler movie. I mean, there's some gravitas in there.
It's the same
but
movie
the thing is, it's a lot of fun. Force Awakens is not a very deep movie, but it was enjoyable. Empire Strikes Back and Rogue One realized the gravity of the situation, really embraced what they were dealing with. And the flaws in this one in Return of the Jedi was, and I think this is probably why I'm coming down this harder, is because Return of the Jedi kind of, really focused its angst, so to speak, its gravitas on one thing, and everything else was kind of silly. Whereas this one, there was so much that it felt like that they realized and didn't realize execute at the same time. So I am going to kind of put this in Return of the Jedi kind of in the dark gray, the average to below average, In the prequels, I'm right with you. I mean, they're like all of them.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Well, I guess we're going to end it off there. I think we've been talking for much longer than I expected to.
Yeah, a lot longer.
So, I'm going to give the scores. I gave this a 9. Rich, you gave it an 8. And Chris, you gave it a 4, which is an aggregate score of a 7 overall, which isn't bad. I think right around where we should be. And I'm going to say good night to you now. We have been here as a Lost Signals podcast. I've been Steve Ramosi, joined by Rich Perry.
May the Force be with you.
And Christopher Morgan.
Live long and prosper. May the Force be with you.
Editing and engineering by Christopher Morgan. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates.